And I'll leave it over to you, Becky, for introduction of our speaker or Pledge of Allegiance, or however you want to go from there.
Okay. All right. Well, yes, it is 7 o'clock, so we'll bring the meeting to order. Again, for any new people, I'm Becky Rustin. I'm the president. And let's see, but we will immediately go. Actually, I'll ask our vice president, Bill, to go ahead and lead us in a flag salute.
All right.
So stand if you can.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the
United States of America
and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I just lost my picture.
We still see you.
We see you.
Okay, and before we get to our speaker, I want to ask, is there any guests? Anyone who hasn't been to a meeting before? Just introduce yourself. Anybody? Let's see. Chris, I haven't seen you lately. I know you've been here before, but you want to introduce yourself? Chris Story? Oh. He's muted and hiding. Any other guests? Anyone that I'm looking to see if there's names I don't recognize, but I recognize most all the names here. Well, alrighty, then, oh, there, okay, Chris did put a note to us in the chat. So no camera, but he's listening in. So welcome, Chris. So Bill, I guess we'll just go ahead, and if you can introduce our speaker, we'll just go on from there.
Sure, I can. I'm on some other website now.
Oh, well, we can see you. So you're still
Okay.
with us.
Well, I'd like to introduce Oliver Deli, K6OLI. He's the DEC for the Northeast District, and he's doing a bang-up job up there, getting those people trained up there. He's producing a lot of training sessions. Unfortunately, I've got other things going on at the same time those are going on, and I can't attend them. Hopefully, one of these days I'll be able to attend some. Oliver, thank you for accepting this on such short notice, and we really appreciate it. And Oliver's going to talk to us. Well, I'll let him tell you what he's going to talk to us about. And it's really interesting while I try to find my way back onto the program. Oliver?
All right. Well, thank you so much, Bill, and thank you so much to our friends in Long Beach for inviting. And I keep saying we and us a lot because you have to understand I'm the public face of a much larger group of people who have done a phenomenal amount of work to make all of this happen. So I'm not using the royal we here. I'm using us as a group, and so please understand that as we go forward. Tonight, I'd like to talk to you about Did You Feel It? And how it can be sent via WinLink and amateur radio, and how that actually is a really valuable contribution to earthquake reporting. And we'll talk a little bit about intensity, and then I'll give you a live demo and answer any questions you may have. Just to start off with, are you all familiar with the reaction buttons at the bottom right hand of your Zoom screen? Let me ask you, how many of you have filled out a Did You Feel It report? Any Did You Feel It report, whether it's on the web, on your phone, or so on. Are you familiar with that? Okay, so pretty much most of you know, a couple knows. All right. Okay, Ryan, if you wouldn't mind clearing that. Next question. How many of you are familiar with WinLink? Okay, quite a few. All right, cool. Well, let me share my screen and we'll get into this again. I'll say this, my screen here is on the left, that's where I have you, and on the right is where my presentation is. So when I look to my left, then you know I'm actually looking at you. All right, let's talk about WinLink Did You Feel It and what it does and how you can participate. And the nice thing about WinLink Did You Feel It is that any ham can do this, whether you do it via internet, via radio, it's all doable. All right. First of all, I'm Oliver, K6OLI. You can always reach me at k6oli@arrl.net. As Bill has already pointed out, I'm with the Aries LX Northeast District, and I'm currently the District Emergency Coordinator. And this is our happy band of rogues. This is part of our group. And this was one of the events that we called Mesh Madness, where we showed up with our mesh kits and did some crazy stuff there in a park. Deploying for us is very big. We are a group that's based around the idea of ad hoc operations, because our basic assumption is if an event happens, may it be an earthquake or anything else, our basic assumption is all we have is what we have at home at that point, and no repeaters or anything. And if those exist, if the repeater systems work, the gateways are working, then that's a bonus. But generally, we don't assume that we have anything more than what we have at home or in our vehicles or at work at the time. Aries LAX, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, is an all-volunteer group. It consists of 4 districts in Los Angeles. Very unique because we're one county with 4 districts. Usually it's on a state level. We have an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding with LA County to provide disaster communication backups with amateur radio to 911 receiving hospitals in the area, and there are 70 911 receiving hospitals. The little circles here indicate the ones that are in our district. The Northeast District goes from Verdugo Hills Hospital all the way in the north to the Medical Alert Center in Santa Fe Springs. And on the west side, we've got Children's and Kaiser in Hollywood, all the way to Pomona on the other side. So it is a big district. Currently, there are 24 hospitals in our care. Not all of them have Aries. Some of them have their own groups. But essentially, this is a little bit background to let you know how we're coming at the problem. This is a scenario I picked up, so let's go straight into it. Today at the USGS website. So they have a couple of pre-made scenarios where they kind of play through this. And you may recognize, because you're right in the on the line of this one. So you would experience, if this M7.2 scenario became reality on the Newport Inglewood Fault, you would be right on that line and you'd be very much affected. By the way, the other scenario they have on the Newport Inglewood line was a 7.7, but I didn't want to scare you, so I said I will go with a small one, all right? So understand that this is one of those things that we plan around. So in Northeast, we look at the scenarios, we try playing through what can we do, how can we help each other. But most of you are probably trained in some form of CERT as well as amateur radio. So in the first instance, what you would do is drop, cover, hold on, then you make sure you're okay, your family is okay, your neighborhood is okay. But what can you do with amateur radio next? Well, the problem exists if you have a scenario like this all along the fault, wherever you see those intensity numbers here, there'll be a lot of damage. And it's not quite clear how much of the communications infrastructure will survive. Now, 5G needs a lot more cells, which can be a good thing. Maybe more cells survive, maybe more of them go down. We don't know. The assumption has to be, if it's all gone, how do we help fix the donut hole? And that's not my term. Dr. Walt of the USGS actually coined that phrase, because the reality of it is where agencies, including the USGS, but also fire departments, police, Cal OES, etc., need the information most, I mean, the hardest hit areas is exactly where they get the least information, because A, people are usually very busy with their own disaster going on, and B, there may not be communications leaving out of that area. So fixing that donut hole is a problem that really all agencies or all communities really share. Well, amateur radio operators, and here's the good news, can actually do something about that, because we work with donut holes all the time, whether it is going to Baker to Vegas and there's no communications, working the AC 100 in the mountains, which aren't that far away. That is one of those things where, you know, you have to understand, we deal with that all the time, so we can help fix the donut hole issue. So let's talk a little bit about what did you feel it is, who uses did you feel it reports, especially the pager reports, how did you feel it by when link started, and how all of us as amateur radio operators can contribute. And then we'll share some lessons we learned through exercises and practice that may be a little counterintuitive at first, but I think once you start trying them out, you probably get a good sense of what works and what doesn't work. So what is Did You Feel It? Well, Did You Feel It essentially reports the intensity of an earthquake. The magnitude you can measure with instrumentation, but the intensity really is about the effects on the surface of the earth. And that usually is established to a level of key responses. And what you use for that, or what USGS uses for that in the US, is the intensity scale, or called the modified Mercalli intensity scale. And I'll show you what that looks like in a moment. Let me talk quickly about what the difference is between magnitude and intensity. The magnitude is the energy released by an earthquake, and that's measurable and it's a fixed number. The intensity relates to the effects of that earthquake on the surface. And the way to think about it, especially as radio amateurs, is about an antenna and a radio signal. The intensity of that radio signal will be the closer you are to that antenna, the farther and farther away you go, the weaker that radio signal will go. So while the magnitude will be the same for the earthquake, the intensity will be very, very different. And remember that scenario I showed you, it would be most intense, the red parts of this, close to where the fault line runs. And as you move outside of that, you're farther and farther away, that intensity actually becomes less and less. I'm pretty sure if I asked you, how many of you felt the Ridgecrest earthquake? Just show of hands, really. We certainly felt it here, and I remember us just sitting down and we counted to 38. And one of the things you can do when you start feeling an earthquake is start counting. If you get to 30 or past 30, you know it's a big earthquake, all right? So we already talked about this. The difference, of course, then is magnitude is objective, intensity is subjective. It really depends on how you experience the earthquake. But it's really valuable information because the magnitude doesn't necessarily tell you what the damage is on the ground. For those of you who have got military backgrounds like Bill, you're familiar with the term ground truths. You do want to understand what's actually happening on the ground in addition to the instrumentation you have. And first-hand accounts or eyewitness accounts can be really useful in that. Here's an overview of the modified Mercalli scale. Just take a quick look at one or two of those. Felt by all, let's say number 6, strong, felt by all, many frightened, some heavy furniture moved, a few instances of fallen plaster, damage slight. Understand that this language we'll see again in the actual Did You Feel It reports. And for those of you who have filled out Did You Feel It reports before, you will probably recognize that this is the language they're using in the actual report itself when they're asking you about it. So there's a reason why all these questions are in there. So who uses Did You Feel It reports? This was the Ridgecrest earthquake sequence. And you can see the first one that was on July 4th, then generated 51,000 of these Did You Feel It reports. So quite a lot of them. The larger one actually had few of them, but it was Friday night. People in LA were partying. So I guess they didn't quite see whether, did you feel it, whether it was an earthquake or whether it was just the DJ pulling up the bass, right? What USGS does, it uses the magnitude measurements and the instrumentation measurements and runs it through a variety of algorithms and then combines it with the Did You Feel It reports to create a shake map. And the more Did You Feel It reports you get, the higher the confidence obviously is for that data. And at the same time, this information goes into something they call pager, which is for rapid response, right? And who uses pager? Pretty much everybody. Your local EOCs will use it, your fire departments use it, utilities use it, companies like Target, Walmart, mid-sized companies, small companies use it to get a sense of how big of a problem this actually is on their hands. Just to let you know, the Carson earthquake a couple of weeks ago, the first pager went out an hour and 14 minutes after the event. So by that point, they had a good sense of what the data was. They had checked the data. They had gotten enough Did You Feel It reports to actually validate the instrumentation data. And they pushed out this, and I'll show you an example of what that looked like. And you can see at the bottom right-hand corner, that's one of these things that EOC would look at, right? which are the most affected areas. Ridgecrest certainly looked like it had a very high intensity of modified Mercalli of 7. So that's actually really, really high. Understand if you had an earthquake that size in LA, the damage would have been very, very different. So it's also part of the risk assessment, right? We all live in a very hazardous area. And for those of you who drive LA streets, LA highways, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But in addition to that, we have earthquakes, landslides, and other things. So this is one of those things to keep in mind. For you in Long Beach, of course, you have an additional problem. Tsunamis. That's not something we usually worry about in Pasadena, but in Long Beach, that's definitely something you want to consider when you're doing this. And this is the pager information for the M4.3 that was outside of Carson. And you can see Carson was where it was felt the most. And then you go down the list, right? Long Beach, of course, has a much higher population than the other places. And so that is really where your risk is clustered, as well as Los Angeles. So understand that the population density plays into this if you're responding agency as well. So a couple of users here, Mercy Corp, CNN, we talked about that. Walmart, Degenkolb, travelers insurance companies use this kind of information. Cal EMA, Cal OES, FEMA, Homeland Security, and the LA Department of Public Works, LA Unified School District, one of those things, Department of Veteran Affairs, and of course, you. Because that information is publicly available after every event, you can actually go to the website and you can check this. I did that with the Carson earthquake, and I sent a decuphilic report, in my case, via WinLink, but through the internet, and it showed up within less than 2 minutes. So that was really fun to actually see that happen. Quick thing here, USGS version versus the WinLink version. What's the difference? Essentially, they're the exact same thing. One of the things that happened here was that the WinLink development team worked closely together with the USGS, really hand in hand, and Vince Titoriano of USGS, their programmer, and Greg, KG6SJT of the WinLink development team got together, and they really did a fantastic job at translating the USGS version to the WinLink version and making sure they're essentially sending the same data. The WinLink version has a couple of additional features, and both of them actually feed the information. They generate a JSON file, and that tabulates the information that you as the end user provide, and that then goes into the same USGS database. In fact, the WinLink version of the file will fill in the official USGS email for you, and when you submit it and then connect, and I'll show you how this is done in a little bit, it'll go straight into the database. They still check, they still have a couple of algorithms that check, they still do human checks on the aggregate data. So, but from there, it goes in the long term to the science community, from where it goes into hazard mitigation, it informs first responders, utilities. One of the things that came out of the discussions we've had is that quite a few utilities in Southern California started reassessing their risk deployment depending on, based on the decuphilic reports, because they said there are certain areas we need to take a closer look at. So the information there is really valuable. And it also informs policies, building codes, etc. So that information has the long-term effect. But in the short-term effect, the end users, us and all the corporate and governmental end users, the first responders, they're the ones that want to know where's the problem, how big is the problem, and what resources do we have to bring in order to address the problem. And that's where decuphilic can actually help a great deal. So how did decuphilic via WinLink start? Well, interestingly enough, it started with an email to the USGS. I went to their website, I sent them an email, and I said, well, would you be interested in having a conversation about amateur radio doing this? And the answer was very encouraging and positive. And from then on out, I asked the WinLink development team whether they'd be willing to develop something like that. And we got all together. And as I said, all the heavy lifting was done by USGS and the WinLink development team. Within a month, we had working prototypes of this. We were testing. And in 6 weeks, we had a WinLink form that was released. And we were able to actually work with that. Then Shakeout in 2020, that was last year, almost a year ago. October is Shakeout month, right? We had a regional exercise together with Ventura County and San Diego County, where we actually stress tested this, and it worked extremely well. And in 2021, there was an EOS article on the Did You Feel It project with amateur radio that was actually written by Dr. Wald and Vince Kittoriano, the programmer. And now we're at that stage where we invite your participation on a regular basis, both for your exercises and for your actual shakeout and for any kind of real events like the Carson earthquake. We did, from the Aries point of view, it's not limited to Aries. Let me point this out right away. Every amateur radio operator that has a WinLink account can certainly participate in this. We just reached out to Aries groups to help us test a lot of this, and many came and answered the call and provided really valuable testing. A lot of groups from Washington, Southern California, sent all over California, Oregon, Arizona, Nevada, Hawaii, Puerto Rico. Fantastic. I already mentioned Greg, KJ6, SJT, and Mike N6 KCB, who were really driving factors behind the development of this. And from the USGS side, Dr. David Wald, who is kind of the father of the Did You Feel It report, the way we know it, both on the web and now of this, and Vince Kittoriano, who was the programmer for this. So it was really phenomenal. We actually, for those of you living down there, the scenario for Shakeout last year was the Gordo Super event. That was the capstone. That's what we prepared to make sure we stress test everything. And we located it at Gordon West's house because I really like his contributions to amateur radio, and I learn something every time I see him on YouTube. But the point there is we had a really elaborate scenario, and within a couple of hours, we got our hands out there sending these reports, and it was super successful with 90 reports in the first go around. So we're really happy with this. All right, we already talked about this. One of the cool things that USGS did specifically, because this was the capstone exercise, they generated a map, and every dot you see here isn't an aggregate of other people. These are all amateur radio stations that reported in. In some cases, there's several of these amateur radio stations, and you can see, of course, lots of involvement from Simi Valley, the Ventura group, and of course, Los Angeles area and San Diego. And those are the groups that tend to be very already tuned in. So if you give them 24 hours notice, they usually don't have a problem getting 20, 30, 40 people up and running. So it was a lot of fun making this as an exercise. So how can all amateur radio operators contribute? Well, there are a couple of things that you can do. This is actually one of the files that USGS uses to explain the donut hole problems. So it was an earthquake in Utah, and you can see where the earthquake hit hardest on the left within 53 minutes. They had where those little gray and black dots are. They didn't have a lot of data. That data came in later as people, as the infrastructure came back, as people were ready to actually put their mind to it because they were busy with their families and reaching out and so on. So there's actually a lot of value to getting that information out, especially within the first hour for us as amateur radio operators. And for Aries LX Northeast, that's the goal. We want everybody to get at least one report out within the first hour. So we talked about the donut challenge. And here's the other thing, amateur radio, we're already a mesh. If you take a look at an amateur radio map and where amateur radio operators live, the answer is wherever there are people. So we already exist in the affected areas. You don't have to fly us in. You don't have to organize us beforehand. We already live there. For those of you in Carson, just to make a point, for those of you who sent the Did You Feel It after the Carson earthquake, you were already there. You didn't have to come in from Sacramento with Cal OES and so on. You were already there. So the information could flow very quickly. Path neutrality. What I mean by that, I mean, we really don't care how we get the message across as long as it does come across. So if we use HF, if we use VHF, UHF, or if we use mesh or any other method, internet, to send that information, we can do that. We also have very flexible and robust communications. Most of us are used to operating outdoors. We have a lot of field setups. We can run on batteries. We can really sling up an antenna really quickly. And most of our computers, at least in my case, can run for a long time, and I can charge on 5-volt and 9-volt in my case. But we can actually make this stuff happen relatively quickly. We can set up in the field as well. The other thing is we can provide high quality data. Part of the reason why we're here tonight is to actually talk about this data. So you can consider yourself trained in this. What is USGS looking for? So the other thing is, as an amateur radio operator, you put your good name to that report because your call sign will be on that report. That also increases the level of confidence on the USGS side that what you're sending is reliable. One thing I want to point out, not felt reports are really important. It helps the USGS actually establish the event boundaries. We encouraged quite a few people in our area, didn't feel the Carson earthquake, but we encouraged them to send in not felt reports as well, because it gives the USGS a much better sense of, well, did people actually experience the earthquake there? And GPS coordinates. And I'll show you how that can be done. But we can actually provide a higher level of granularity to that data. It doesn't have to be within a meter or so, but by 10 meter by 10 meter, 30 foot by 30 foot square. That is really valuable as well. So we can actually improve the quality of the data there. We can add observations in the comment form, additional observations. You don't have to, but if you want to, by all means do that. And of course, we train and we exercise this, so it's easier for us and we get faster as we train and send these Did You Feel It reports out. The goal always has to be for any kind of group, whether it's your group or our group or Simi Valley or the Ventura SDG, 20 plus. Anything more than that is fantastic, but with 20 observations for any given area, USGS can actually draw really valid inferences. So that's the goal, to get 100, 200, 300, more power to us. But minimum, we should aim for 20 to give them that data they can work on. And in our case, we tried to do under 90 minutes, but that was last year. This year, we tried to get everybody to do it in under 60. A couple of lessons that we learned, because Did You Feel It has had a big impact in how Aries LAX Northeast is handling traffic as well. On the left here, this was the shakeout exercise from last year. And again, you see all these dots here. These are all reports generated by amateur radio operators, not by anybody else. And you can see that within the first 90 minutes, we had 90 responses. So that's really good in terms of an exercise. But it also shows you do need to train that, and you do need to make sure that you are comfortable with sending this traffic. Talked about shakeout. Here were the three groups. I already mentioned that. Here are the amateur radio implications. A couple of things that we talked about internally that we tried out. How do we send this traffic outside? Not everybody, of course, one of the big advantages we have is we've got HF. So we have these long distance communications options. However, there's limited bandwidth, the circuit capacity is limited. So we experimented with a couple of ways of doing this, and Ventura County was working closely with us. So we had two setups. One was Ventura County has a lot of HF capable operators, and they decided to send all their traffic via HF. While we decided we aggregate all the traffic on one local gateway with VHF, UHF, and then have that gateway forward the information outside of the area to K6 SDR and of course N0DAJ. N0DAJ is in Arizona, K6 SDR is up in San Francisco, but we consider that out of area. And that worked remarkably well for a couple of reasons. One, we had multiple paths. You could send in the information via FM, Arden, or packet, whatever floated your boat. That worked really well. And at the same time, the gateway took care of, once it latched onto the other gateway, it just sent bunches and bunches of messages. So we didn't really have to worry about it. On the other side, one of the takeaways that Ventura County came away with was there was quite a bit of interference with the different HF stations because the coordination was difficult to do. So they since switched to a similar model to this. They have now, for those of you who are doing WinLink, W6BI put up a brand new gateway. It works fantastically in that area. But the advantage is also that all the people that are doing VHF, all the technicians that don't have HF privileges, can participate with ease, and they can send the information outside of the area, piggybacking onto the HF-capable gateways. So you get more participation, more observations, more data, and you still are very mindful of your circuit capacity. So for us, this has been a really big game changer in how we move traffic, because we cannot just move traffic for USGS this way, we can do it for the hospitals that we serve as well. And stress testing anything that we want to do is really important to us. All right, one of the things that you see here is exactly how we did it. Well, on January 5th, Saturday exercise, we actually aggregated all the information, and from then on out, we sent it via 2 gateways, and they forwarded all the information out of area. We have turned off the internet on the local gateways, so there was no cheating there, no local internet, and it worked really, really well. And again, we reached out to the other gateway owners beforehand with all our exercises to make sure they're okay with that, and they've been extremely supportive of this. I do have to say a big shout out to our friends in San Francisco, Las Vegas, and Arizona. All right, so far so good. Let's do a demo. Any questions so far? Am I going too fast? No? All righty. So for those of you who aren't familiar with WinLink, WinLink Express is free. You can download it as you wish. Packet, you can get free software for Packet. You usually need some form of sound card with that. If you have an old Cantronics lying around, you can certainly set that up. It's pretty straightforward. I'm going to show you how to do it via internet today because one, I don't have a radio hooked up to this computer setup, but I do want to show you a little bit how easy it is to send a Did You Feel It earthquake. Let's assume we had an earthquake at 7:30, right? And we want to report that using WinLink. First thing we do is we start a new message, right? And you could type any message here and send it to your friends or family. Really big plus. In our case, we actually encourage our operators when they write a Did You Feel It report to also write a notification to their families, telling the families they're okay or what their plans are. And that kind of helps. All these messages are pretty small, so it's not a big deal, especially if it's a managed net. But you go to select template. Now take a moment here. For those of you who've done CERT training, you'll recognize the Ics forms here are very useful. For those of you in California, if you are part of Aries, we encourage you to learn to use the California state forms, LA County forms. We have our own forms in there. The important ones, of course, are the bed availability report, or HSA, the hospital status assessment, and the LAX resource request. Those are the ones you want to use whenever we have exercises or in a real event for the hospitals, because those are the official county forms. The others, don't worry about those. That's something the hospital will ask you for if they need that. But today we're going to show you how to do a USGS form. It's available in Spanish and in English. We'll go through the English, and by the way, the Spanish is also the official USGS translation, so it's not like WinLink made those up. We actually used the Spanish translation for this, so that was really cool. But I'll show you this. So you can just highlight it, and I double click on this, and it brings it up. Let me make sure which, that always the one that you're. Let me just bring this over so you can actually see it. And it brings up this web page, right? And if you click on this link, it'll actually take you to the original USGS website. So if you have internet, that's great. There's some more information about Did You Feel It and how to, you can learn more. And first up, there are only really 4 things you need to fill out, right? But I want you to pay attention to this, because the first part is already special for this. You don't see that in the official USGS, that you have an option to send the earthquake report as an exercise, which it defaults to, or as a real event. And that tells the database on the USGS that you're actually reporting a real event. So it'll look at it slightly differently. By the way, if you send Carson as an exercise, they usually bunch these together and somebody takes a look at it. If there are a lot of exercise reports for a certain thing. But the point there is, if you report a real event, you just change this over to real event. But tonight, this is a demonstration for you, our friends in Long Beach. So let's go through that. It's an exercise. Question is, did we feel it? Let's say yes, we felt it. And again, if you did not feel an earthquake, click no. Fill in the first three, you're done. You go to the bottom and you click submit. But in this case, let's say yes, we felt it. The date, you can change that date. If you felt Northridge and you didn't report it and you want to do it now, go back to the original time and make sure you report the right date and time, but you can still provide that information. We actually had quite a few of our stations when we had the San Fernando earthquake anniversary last year. There were quite a few stations that actually went back and actually reported that because they had very intense memories of the event. But all right, so date sounds good. We can change the time. So we click on the time. It was at 7:30. Click OK. And then the location, in this case, we'll just fill in my location here. And you have to fill in that location because that helps them identify where the event happened. I mean, where you're reporting from. The latitude and the longitude are optional, but we highly recommend that for those of you who have a GPS dongle enabled in WinLink. Once you have that enabled, it'll actually fill that information in automatically. In this case, let's just pick some numbers I had in there from before, but really the important part is your address. The address has to be in there. And there's one station that keeps reporting QTH. Please do not do that because nobody knows outside of ham radio what QTH is. And they most definitely don't know what your QTH is. So it has to be your street address, right? And if that's all you want to report, you can just, I'll just go down there. You can go down to submit and send it. If you said you did not feel it, that's what I would recommend. Just skip over everything and click submit and you're done. But let's go over this real quick. So we did feel it. We put in our address. Everything in red is required. It says here too, the remainder of this form is optional. So what was the situation during the earthquake? Well, I was inside a building giving a presentation. Were you asleep? No. Did others nearby feel it? By the way, you can skip questions here if you want to. You don't have to, you don't even have to do not specified. If you skip it, you skip it. That's the end of it, right? Did others feel it? Some felt it. Let's say most felt it, right? How would you describe the shaking? I would say it was mild shaking up in Pasadena. How did you react? And we call that the macho question. And that's because quite a few people have asked me when I've given this presentation, why does the USGS need to know whether I was frightened or not? I'm not frightened of anything. And funny enough, it's always guys that ask that. I've never heard a woman ask me that because for women, this tends to be a data point and they just move on with life. But here's the thing, you don't want to answer that. You can skip the question. You can say not specified, or you can say, hey, no reaction. I don't care. But in this case, that's just, I don't know, like very little reaction. There you go. Cool as a cucumber. Again, you don't have to fill it out if you're uncomfortable with it. For the USGS, this is just a data point, right? Again, if you don't fill it out, more power to you. How did you respond? And you better say dropped and covered, right? I know that in my household, that's better what I say. But again, however you responded, that's how you do that. Was it difficult to stand? No. Did you know the swinging of doors? Yes. Did you hear creaking and other noises? A lot of people report that. Yep, slight noises. Did objects rattle? Well, let's say not specified. Pictures on the walls move? Nope. Any furniture, appliances? And again, this is about the physics of it, right? If furniture and heavy appliances start sliding, there's probably a lot more force to this. Let's say in this case, no. Was a heavy appliance affected? No. Freestanding? I don't know. I didn't go outside. And I need damage to the building. And the answer here could be hairline cracks in walls, which in California doesn't mean anything. There are always hairline cracks in some walls out here. So additional comments. You don't have to do this. If you don't want to, you can click submit right now and be done with it. In this case, let's say it's a demo for Long Beach. Right? And then we click submit. And it gives you some feedback. That feedback isn't the official feedback. That's something that was put in there to give you some form of feedback. Then you click continue. And I want to show you a couple of things. Here, you can close this. But this is a message. So remember, we had an empty message in here before. I want you to take a good look at this up here. So it filled in the USGS email automatically. So you don't have to worry about this. This is the official Did You Feel It Reports automated USGS email. And it expects WinLink messages. So you can send messages from your Gmail. It'll just discard those. They won't even get anywhere near the database, right? It's formatted in a certain way and it has to be sent a certain way. You can forward messages. So if your friend can't make it out and he sends you the message, let's say peer-to-peer, and you have access to a gateway, you can forward that message and the message will be parsed correctly. We've tried this before, we've tested this, it works. Of course, you can add more information up here, more addresses. What we usually recommend is that people also send it to our friends in Ventura County, because the USGS email is a one-way email. They will not send you a confirmation that they received it. But our friends in Ventura County set up a server that will send you a notification that says, yes, we received your message. Thank you so much. And I think that's a little bit more fun for the operators, especially for exercises. And that address is easy to remember, dyfi@Ventura County Communications, VCCOMM.org. And yes, you're perfectly fine sending it to them. They're swell people. Some of you have probably worked them on the air or worked with them. So it's really, really useful to actually do this. And I'll show you what that looks like. A couple of things before we go on here and submit the information. Remember, we put in the latitude, longitude. That actually is put in there. And please remember that in California, we're part of the Western Hemisphere. There needs to be a negative sign in front of your address, in front of your longitude there, or else you're going to wind up in China and some of the coastal regions. Here's all the information that filled out. Remember, we said we docked. And of course, the comments, Long Beach, all that information is in there. There's an additional timestamp in there that tells the system when you sent the information or when you compiled the information. And then, of course, it puts your call sign in there. And that's a big deal because that says your good name is with that report. And that's what makes this more valuable. It actually says there's somebody who actually has been trained to do this, can actually send this information out. In this case, remember, this is send us WinLink message. You want to post it to the outbox. So let's just walk you through this, right? In this case, we're also now next selecting our session. I'm using Telnet WinLink, which is internet. I could use Packet for one of the local gateways with HF. In your area, AJ7C is one of those gateways that is a hybrid gateway who can do HF forwarding. You could use Pactor, RDOP, and Vara HF. Those are HF-based modes. Robust Packet, and almost nobody in the US uses, more a European thing. And of course, you can use Vara FM, and we already talked about Packet. Down here are the peer-to-peer modes. We completely ignore those. And don't touch the radio only. This is for 2-3 agencies in the country. By and large, we want to use these as amateur radio operators. We want to use these or these peer-to-peer, or in this case, with the USGS, we want to send it out to the internet. That's the ultimate goal here. We click on Open Session. And that's the same for all of them. You open your session, make sure your modem's running, and then you click Start, and it's connecting to the CMS. And it's sending the message. Download that. Right? And that's how quickly it went. Now, in a couple of minutes, we'll be getting a message back from our friends in Ventura County. And this is what it'll look like. It'll say, thank you for sending in a Did You Feel It report. Your message has been processed. Ventura County ACS Aries team. And that just tells you Ventura County received it. And the chances are, if they received it, the USGS in Colorado got it as well. And that's how easy it is to actually do that and start filling that donut hole. And I would encourage you to make liberal use of the exercise function. USGS has actually told us that they really like seeing these things in exercises because it helps them work on their own databases. It helps them run test scenarios, models, et cetera, and test their own setups. So please, please don't be shy about using the exercises and the exercise option. And of course, if it's a real event, more power to you. And I know that a couple of you sent it in from Carson. Maybe we can ask you about your experience before we go into questions. And I didn't go over my time limit. Cool. All right, I'm ready for questions here. So shall I stop my share? I can always bring it back up. All right, most of you still look like you're awake. No? All right. Any questions? Or is it straightforward? All right, Gilbert, go ahead.
On Telnet, you're talking about you can download this directly onto your laptop and just.
Yeah, with that, all you need for WinLink is an amateur radio call sign. That's all you need. The only thing is that they do have a donation thing, but the only thing you get is a little nag screen that goes away after about 5 seconds if you don't donate. For power users like me, I paid my $28 and they'll leave me in peace. But by and large, every amateur radio operator can use WinLink. That's great. It's easy to set up. Just make sure that make sure you pick a good password, right? Like every email account. Mitch, go ahead.
I have a question. It's pretty, when I did my questionnaire, I did it from the website. Does it matter, or is one better to use either through WinLink or from their professional website? USG,
here's the thing. The data is the same. They actually encourage amateur radio operators to use the WinLink whenever you can. Because again, there's this added. They look at us now as people who can provide reliable information, because all of you showed up tonight to actually listen to how to fill this out, and that it's important to actually send quality data.
Would you show again how to locate the form?
Oh, absolutely, with pleasure. Let me move you over to this side again. Share the screen. All right. And we do have videos on this as well. I'm happy to send this to you. So you go to new message, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then go to select template. And then the standard templates. That's the one we want because it's part of the standard library. And for those of you, quite a few of you are usually with the amateur, with the American Red Cross too, right? So they have a couple of forms in there too, but okay. Standard templates, and then you go all the way to the bottom and it says USGS.
Oh, thank you. Now I see it. Okay. Thank you, Oliver. Excellent report. Thank you.
All right. And then you can double click on that. That's how I do it. I can one click and select. And then it pops up in your favorite browser. You fill it out, you click on the submit, and it fills all the information in. And the nice thing about that is it doesn't send the entire HTML page. It only sends the data, which makes the file less than 900 bytes. So it's a really small file to send. So sending this via HF takes no time. Even if you do an aggregate of this, and we've done it with 20 reports in one go on HF, that took like 3-4 minutes. It was nothing on Vara HF. So if the goal is to get the information out of area, you can certainly do that with amateur radio techniques. And again, if you have HF capabilities that you're happy with WinLink, by all means, do that. But if you're doing this as an organized group, think about maybe aggregating and forwarding. It's much easier because you're not interfering with one another. All right, anybody else with questions? Tim, go ahead.
Yeah, it's sort of related to this. I really have a question about your gateway, because I wanted to set up a gateway in this area. I think we're really lacking in the Long Beach area for gateway. And I did send you a request. You gave me information. I realize it's a commitment, but your gateway, we can send VARA, and I can hit your gateway fine. You can do VARA and WinLink FM. Is that one station or is that several? Because one's doing VARA, one's doing WinLink packet, or is one station handle both?
It's one station. In fact, the gateway itself is actually two gateways with one radio and one sound
Okay.
card. So it's
That's
K6,
what I was wondering, because
Yeah,
I've got a
K6YZ
DRA 50 and a radio, and I was wondering, can I do both? Can I set it up for VARA and packet
Mhm.
with one radio, one sound modem, or one modem? So, okay, that's what I was wondering. Thank you.
And if you're looking for a good radio, if you don't already have one, if you have a radio, I say use what you have. But if you're looking for good radio, we highly recommend the Alinco 135Ts. They're excellent monobanders. They work really well. We run them on medium power, which is 20 watts, and we have no problem hitting Tijuana with it on regular days. So the reach is really good, and you can use either a DRA board. I wouldn't get a signaling for the Alinco. I would go with a DRA board or RIM 9600. The RIM Lite 9600, and the RIM Lite, you literally just plug into the back, put the radio in digital, and off, and Bob's your uncle, as they say, right?
All right. Yeah, I just built one of the DRA 50s, and it seems pretty cool. So
Yeah,
that's fine.
Yeah, make that work. I have a DRA 50. Those work. In fact, the gateway is run by a DRA 30.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, that's got the DB9 on it. I guess.
exactly,
So,
and that for the Alinco, which also has the same connector, it makes it much easier.
yeah, and I've got Yaesu, so I bought the 50 with the 6. So,
Yeah.
Okay, good. And then I've got an FM antenna on the house. Now, how far away from that antenna should I be with my gateway antenna?
Well, it depends. I mean, if you stack them on top of one another, in the null, it's not that big of a problem.
Oh, okay.
If not, then I would probably move it to the other side of the house.
Yeah.
But again, most of the stuff isn't really high power stuff, so we're not overloading a whole lot of things, because digital, especially VARA, is a low signal mode, and people keep forgetting that most of the time what I see is people overdrive the signal and they're wondering why their speeds are so slow. And I tell them, turn down your volume, and they say, are you crazy? Look at how low my speeds are. It's like, turn down the volume, and all of a sudden they're getting full speed. So yeah.
All right, thank you.
Sure thing. Anybody else? Ryan, go ahead.
I don't know if this is a question for you or probably a better question for the WinLink guys, but you seem to be the knowledge on WinLink. It's kind of a two-part question. One, is it possible to set up a temporary gateway? It won't show up in the list of drop-down gateways, but to run the software on a computer that's not registered in order to, like, say for an emergency, set it up on a vehicle repeater or something. And maybe that's using like a satellite uplink to the internet. Do you know if you can run a temporary that way?
Yeah, maybe yes and no. You can certainly have an unlisted gateway, right? So that doesn't show up or isn't. The thing about temporary is there are so many updates to WinLink, to the WinLink ecosystem all the time, that even if it's temporary, you do want to run it permanently somewhere in the house, even if it's not connected to radio, but at least your software is up to date, because you don't want to show up to a event and then all your software is outdated and not compatible. Just to give you an example, we're in VARA 4.14 and it's not compatible with 3, 2, 1, and 3 is not compatible with 2 and 1, and 2 is not compatible with 1. So as Tim just pointed out, setting up a gateway is really easy, but running it is a commitment, because you will run into issues like Windows updates at the most inopportune moments. You will run into issues of Windows changing your sound levels. All of those things you will run into. So it is a commitment in as much as just putting it away in a box probably won't work. And plus, WinLink expires, your WinLink account expires after 400 days of not using it. So, keep that in mind. You can certainly set up a portable gateway. That is doable, especially if you have a sponsoring group. That is really doable. In fact, we've got 2 of them in our district.
And my secondary kind of in that portable gateway, because like in the original, you guys are in deployment. I know I've seen a software in the SysOps section where it will store and forward. So if it doesn't have an internet connection, it'll store it on the local server. You can run your own CMS server, right? Where basically it's an offline local CMS.
Well, yeah, that's the RMS, right? So the CMS essentially is a common message server, and that lives on the Amazon cloud.
Right.
That's where all the messages come together if there's internet. But in the scenario you're pointing out, and we play a lot with that, if you have only local, if the internet is out and you only have local communications, then yes, your gateway would serve as a post office. And the way I describe it to people who haven't done any WinLink is, it's just like your local post office in Long Beach. You can bring your messages there. Somebody else can go there and pick it up, you know, and it doesn't matter whether you take the bicycle, let's say packet, or whether you come with a motorcycle and Vara. But the nice thing is, even if you lose the internet locally, you can still exchange those messages. And there's more, wait, there's more, right? If you have an HF rig and you're willing to put that on there, then your local post office can then reach outside of the area. And here we're coming back to the donut hole, right? Where you can actually move traffic outside of the area to one of the many other gateways that are reachable from the LA area. So there are options upon options. And I think once you get started on this, you actually get a really good sense of what the possibilities are. We've actually done that because all our SysOps also have a copy of their gateway on their laptops. So we found that that's really valuable. You can bring it on your laptop into the field. If anything happens to your gateway at home and you're deployed somewhere, you just bring it up right then and there and make sure everything's up to date. And we've actually done it where exercises ran through a gateway at the Medical Alert Center. So we actually didn't use any of the permanent of the infrastructure gateways. And we find that's actually easier to do than peer-to-peer. Plus, you get to use technical addresses, which
Okay.
you don't get to use on peer-to-peer. Does that help?
Yes, very much so. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, cool. All right. Anybody else with any questions? All right. Did I leave you speechless? All right. Well, in that case, if you do have questions, you know my call sign. You add at ARRL.net or send me a WinLink message, K6O Live. No ad required in WinLink. Just call sign and off you go. Right. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have with respect to WinLink or Did You Feel It? And please, Shakeout is coming up on 10/21. If you can manage to get Did You Feel It anytime that day out and exercise, Did You Feel It? Please do so, because they're encouraging us to stress test this, because they're saying, listen, Ridgecrest, we got 51,000. We want to see how many we can get on amateur radio. So please do send one out, or several. We can send out several, and just have a lot of fun with that. Okay. All right. In that case, I want to thank you all for inviting us. I do want to thank the WinLink development team. I do want to thank all the people that are working in Aries LAX Northeast and Aries LAX on this. And I hope you had a fun time. And, again, reach out. Thank you so much. I'll be going clear now and wishing you a happy weekend. And we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Oliver. Really appreciate that. We got a whole lot out of that. And hopefully we can get more of the LAX section drills and things going on like we had here recently, and learn more from that. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. Good night.
Good night.
Okay, well, that was really interesting. But now we'll go on to club business. Let's see, probably the most imminent thing coming up is elections, officer and director elections. Nominations are next month, and then the vote will be in December. And just a reminder, we do need president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, and up to 3 directors. So if any of you want to participate in the leadership of this organization, please do nominate yourself, nominate, someone else, but do be involved we leadership does keep the club going. So consider it. If you need, actually, let's see, president basically runs the meetings, vice president, with the help of the rest of the board, coordinates the speakers. Secretary takes the minutes and any, club business that needs to be taken care of. Treasurer monitors our funds, and the directors kind of fill in whatever needs to be needed and whatever needs to be done. So again, I encourage anyone and everyone to get involved. Again, next month is time to nominate. And although we won't close the nominations next month, nominations will continue to be open in December. And then December is our vote. And our December meeting is that where everyone can get involved and tell us a story. So we won't have an outside speaker. The speaker will actually be all of you. And very similar to the class projects we had as kids. What did you do last summer? Okay. What did you do on radio last year? So consider that and be ready to share your stories and your projects. Let's see, mother stuff. Bill, you want to give us a review on the Aries drill, the recent Aries drill? After you unmute?
Yes. We had a recent Aries drill. Well, it was an exercise, and we had minor participation. I was disappointed in that. We had more people, I think, from the Aries Seal Beach than we had from our South District. So we'd like to see more people participate, more people get involved in Aries. We used both WinLink and Simplex Voice because in an earthquake or any kind of a disaster where we lose power, there's not going to be anything to go to. So that one was a terrorist attack, and they blew up the bridges to Terminal Island, blocking off the port of LA, and they blew up a lot of power plants in the area. So there was no power. So we had to go peer-to-peer, and the biggest problem was me. I just recently bought an antenna switch, and I keep forgetting to switch. And I could hear people. I was receiving messages, but I couldn't put out because my antenna switch was in the wrong position. So I learned something from that. Now every time I go to the radio, I look at the antenna switch first. But other than that, it went quite well. I was really happy with everybody, and I had to apologize to Midge for frustrating her because I couldn't get any messages to her. But she was getting things going. Everybody else was getting things going, and I was really happy. And I thank Glenn. I don't know if he's on here now tonight. I thank Glenn for doing the voice NCO. Excuse me. But other than that, I think little by little we're learning more and more, and we're going to be using WinLink more and more because it's more efficient. It uses less airtime, and it is more accurate. So do what Oliver said. Just get on there and try it. Have some fun with it. It's we're having fun trying to learn it ourselves. So that's about it for the exercise. I'm really happy with the people who did participate.
Okay, good. And we always have the opportunity to join in on exercises, right?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. Upcoming activities. Let's see. We always have our weekly net Fridays at 6:30, which everyone is welcome to join. K6 CHE repeater. And if anyone wants to practice their net control or just practice talking on the radio, you can be a guest net control operator. Ryan, did I see you waving about something, or are you just waving?
Yes, I was the same thing you were just talking about. We are looking for net control operators for Friday. I'm tired of doing it every other Friday. Anybody who wants to, Even if you're not comfortable, we will train. We will stand next to you and hold your hand through it. Anybody who wants to do net control on Fridays, feel free to step up. We're more than happy to help you guys through your first few net controls.
And is that Gil over there volunteering, waving his hand to volunteer? You're muted, Gil. We can't hear you, so I'm just going to say, yes, you volunteered.
Yes, I volunteered for next Friday with Ryan backup.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Alrighty, let's see. And let's see, tomorrow we do have our first Saturday live meetups. We do meet in the park. We wear masks. We bring our own chairs. If you have any projects, come and we can talk them out or show them off. Or if you want to, bring your to-go kits and transmit from the park, it's a great time and place to do it. So again, it's basically the Saturday morning after our meetings. So it's usually the first Saturday, usually. It's at Recreation Park, which is in Long Beach, 7th Street and Federation, next to and across the street from the golf course, and 10 a.m. So let's see. Oh, Bill, you want to tell us about the WinLink class? It's coming up next Friday, right?
You muted, Bill.
But Bill, you're still muted. There you go.
Okay. I got a thing up here that says unmute myself, and I wouldn't do anything. Anyway, Kimberly George is going to be having a WinLink class next Friday. If you want to be a part of that, please contact her at kimberlygeorge2011@gmail.com. Kimberly George 2011 is all one word. She's going to go quickly through it because most people that are going through this have already been doing it for a while, but so they're just getting some reminders, and she's going to go into working peer-to-peer to help us get through some of the issues that we have had. Peer-to-peer is a very, very valuable and very important area of WinLink, because like Oliver was saying, when everything goes down, that's all you've got. Later on, I think I'd like for us to try to do some VARA HF and try that for a while. But for this coming Friday at 7 o'clock, let her know that you're going to be there, and she'll make sure that you'll get an invitation.
Is there a cost, Bill?
No,
Oh, that's cool.
no, we're amateurs. We don't like to pay out.
Okay, and if you all are, oh, Gil, did you have a question?
That's 7 p.m., right? Not 7 a.m. in the morning. Right?
Yes, 7 p.m. I think that's what it is. I'll have to go back and look.
7 p.m.
What? It was at 7 p.m.?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
It's our meeting.
I'm old. I have memory lapses.
Okay, so if anyone is noticing a theme we have going on this month, since our speaker was telling us about WinLink, and Kim is teaching the class next Friday for WinLink, then our long distance workshop that we've been trying to maintain on the second Saturdays of the month will basically also be following up on WinLink. So if anyone just wants to, get in and practice a little bit and, come across problems and ask questions, we'll either have the question or we'll either have the answer or work out the answer between all of us. So again, our long distance workshop, that would be next Saturday at 1 o'clock via Zoom. So if anyone is interested and you want the Zoom link, do email zoom@ ARALB.org. And we can send you the Zoom link from there.
And,
Again, well, go ahead, Bill.
and Tim has shown us that we can use more than just the signal link to get on there. He's got that DRA 50 that he was talking about, and it seems to be working just great.
Okay, great. And so again, our workshops, our long distance workshops are pretty much a chance for all of us to share and learn from each other. It's very casual. There are no dumb questions. So come and participate. And again, it follows up with the whole WinLink theme we have going this month of preparation for earthquakes and other emergencies. Let's see, Midge, would you like to tell us about the Seal Beach Aries meeting coming up?
Sure. October 11th, we are having a Zoom combined meeting with Aries, Seal Beach, Los Al, with the VA, and we usually do that. Our speaker programs are just speakers. There's no meeting or anything. They are open to everyone, operators and non-operators, and we are really happy. We have Josh Nash, KI6NAZ. He is the YouTube sensation for radio, ham radio. He does Ham Nation. He has had, in September, he had reached 500,000 views on his YouTubes. And you can sign up for his YouTubes, but he's going to talk about to-go radios. And we're really excited to have him. We've tried to work out times, and he finally worked out a time with me on October 11th. So please come, and if you have your wife, he's entertaining. He knows how to engage and have fun while he presents. And you can go to YouTube and view all of his YouTubes. He's got so many. He demonstrates new radios, problems. He shows you how to make a Faraday cage. He's so diverse. He was a aeronautics engineer for Boeing and is very, very bright. So I hope you all can come on the 11th and invite your friends, because it's really nice to have a lot of people come when you get somebody important. So thank you very much.
So that is next Monday, not this Monday, the 11th.
Yeah, it's a week, the 11th, and it's at 6:30. And you have the Zoom session is on your ARALB. I think Ryan put it on there.
Okay,
So
good.
thank you, Ryan. You always do that. I appreciate that.
We'll get that up and out shortly. I just got the meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you,
And,
Mitch.
KI6NAZ is quite the entertainer. He's the only one I know who live streamed an amateur radio wedding on his channel. 2 ham radio operators who got married at HRO, some of us know, actually got married and live streamed on his channel, and the whole wedding was done over ham radio. It was kind of funny. So
It's entertaining. I mean, he does all kind of crazy stuff on his YouTubes. I mean, he throws antennas up with balloons, and I mean, and sometimes he's real serious. So it just depends on his mood, but it should be really entertaining. Yep. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Midge. And of course, this Sunday is the Slow Scan TV, and that's where you actually send photographs over your radio. I remember whenever I first got my radio, and I was, I don't know, somewhere up North Long Beach, and I was waiting, and I turned on my radio because I was waiting for the hamburgers or something or other, and I heard the weirdest thing. It sounded like the UFOs were landing. It was like, blah, 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 blah. It was the strangest sound, and I thought, oh my gosh, I think something must be broken. Why won't my radio work? I don't understand. Well, now I understand. That is Slow Scan TV transmitting out over the air, and it's an odd sound. And so Skeet and Endev are usually always there the Sunday after our meetings every month at 7:30 on K6CHE, and they'll transmit photographs back and forth. And I went last month. It was a lot of fun. It was pretty entertaining. So again, that's Sunday, 7:30, K6CHE repeater. It's best to see. Endev, do you mind? What's the program that we should load You do need an app on your phone to,
How does slow scan TV sound again?
What?
How does slow scan TV sound again? How does it sound?
oh,
All right, okay.
not about right?
What do you have?
Yeah, you can use apps on your phone. Like iPhone has something called CQSS TV. I'm not an Android user, so I don't know what that uses. But me personally, I would, if you have a PC or a laptop, download something called MMSSTV, Mike SSTV. It's no longer supported, but it's still available to download, and that is more efficient than using a phone, I think personally.
Oh, okay.
What was the phone zone and CQ what?
If you have an iPhone, it's CQSSTV. I'm not an Android user. You know, I only use Apple equipment. No, I'm kidding.
It's 36.
What is it called?
Robot 36.
Robot 36. Yeah. So that's the Android version. But again, I would personally encourage you to use MMSSTV on a Windows machine, a Windows laptop, Windows tablet, or a Windows desktop. That's all.
What kind of movie is shown?
It's just a still picture. So it's just sending a picture. So the sound that Becky demonstrated, if she wants to do that again right now, is data. It's a picture turned from, it's converted into audio tones that's sent through the air, and then the software on your computer decodes the audio tones and puts it back as a picture. So my assumption is this weekend, with the big air show, this week's SSTV nets will be mainly aviation related, I suspect.
But it doesn't.
Say again?
But it doesn't matter what you send to receive.
No, it doesn't matter. It's just a picture. It can be anything, a JPEG image. It doesn't matter what it is.
Do we pick our picture? Is that how it's done?
Yep.
Yeah. But if you really want to send, you really should use some kind of interface between your radio and the computer. I mean, you can do it from the phone or your laptop without an interface.
As they say, coupling.
Sorry?
They call it audio coupling.
Yeah, audio coupling. You can do it by audio coupling, but the problem sometimes is the image, the microphone on the phone or the computer will pick up ambient noise, and that shows up as noise on the image. So there may be some interference on the image, but you can do it.
And so to clarify your last, Midge, slow scan TV is still pictures.
Okay.
Fast TV is moving video like a video screen. So slow scan is just still pictures.
Yeah, it's just if we're not talking fast scan, which is moving images. No, this is still pictures.
So the expectation is I would have a picture that I want to send to you. Is that correct?
Yes.
Correct. What we normally do is, Skeet and I started this about a year or 2 years ago, where we would just meet up together and send pictures to each other, and we've opened it up. So you can listen and decode the images. If you want to send, then that's up to you. But it's mainly myself, Tim, and Skeet and when Ryan's around, we send images to each other. I know Gil has recently started receiving. Becky was there last month. But again, Ryan may have a different viewpoint. For me, if you're new to this, I would listen first before you start sending.
Okay, I will listen. Thank you.
10-4.
Okay, thank you, Inda and Ryan. Let's see, and
Gil's waving at you.
oh yes, Gil. So sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I did the slow scan TV last time, and I'm probably going to listen for a few more times, and then I'll seek some advice on how to capture a picture and send. But it's just getting used to the slow scan first, and seeing the picture both on laptop and on my phone. I get clearer pictures on my phone for some reason than I do my laptops, but I figure that's because of the microphones. And soon I'll be seeking, how do I get my own picture and send it out? And that'll come up. But right now I'm just very happy to get the slow scan TV stuff sent and
Ryan and Endorf, would this be used in an emergency? Let's say an earthquake, and you want to send a picture of a building.
You could. It does take a lot of airtime.
Oh,
But,
Yeah, it takes about 36 seconds to send a picture, so it does take, like, I'm didn't to interrupt, Brian, I'm sorry.
no, that's fine. It takes a while to send a still picture, and sometimes it's easier to describe the situation if it's not explicitly detailed.
okay.
You need to like send a picture of a license plate or send something else, then you can do the picture that way. But it does take up quite a bit of time on a channel, especially if it's being used for emergency communications. So
It's mainly a HF mode. It's not really designed for VHF, FM. It's mainly meant for HF, but you can get away with it on FM through repeaters. But it's really a HF mode.
and if anybody, I'm hoping to make it to the park tomorrow, but if anybody wants to do a quick demo at the park, I'll be more than happy to show them by cell phone. Because audio coupling, I can couple cell phone to cell phone the same way you would do a cell phone to radio to send and receive a picture.
Oh, I'd like to see that.
Ryan was waving.
Yeah, Ryan Robeson, you had a question or comment? After you unmute?
Tony. Yeah, way back when Slow Scan first started, you built your own receiver, and I got a 5-inch radar tube and built a Slow Scan unit. And the first thing I was able to see, finally, after adjusting and playing around with it, was on HF, was down in Puerto Rico. A guy sent a picture, and he said, I'm going to send you a picture, and you see anybody that copies it, tell me what you see, you know. So he sent this picture, and what it was, it showed a shape of an island with a flagpole on it with his call sign. And that was a thrill. I said, finally, I got to see something. So it's been around a long time. It's back before the, I forget who it was that built the commercial camera and displays and sold them for a while back in the, it was the 70s, I guess. Anyway,
Wow.
but it's still pictures, but it's like you say, it takes a while to get it. But anyway, it worked. I've
Okay.
long since done away with it, so I don't even know where it is. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Ryan. Good to know. I didn't realize it'd been around that long. Phil Minch, did you have a question, comment?
Yeah, just a comment. If anybody downloads the app for their phone or gets the program that Endoff mentioned, it just want to try it out before the VHF thing starts. You can usually hear some activity on 20 meters at, if I remember correctly, about 14.23 megahertz.
That's correct, 14.230.
Okay. Thank you, Phil.
You can see what some people are sending that way. Also had a question.
Another comment. I have a cassette tape that I made back then of the pictures that came, you know, the sounds. Now, whether it's exactly on frequency and we decode today, I have no idea. We can see some of the early stuff if it were.
That'd be interesting.
Anyway.
Okay, thank you. And let's see, Phil, you were still saying something?
Yeah, off topic for a minute. I don't see Bob NC6Q here. And I was just wondering if anybody knows if he'd gone out to Imperial County for CQP.
Anybody know?
I know he was desperately seeking people to go with him, but I don't know if anybody accepted. I have no idea. I saw something on the contest reflector that only one person may be going there, but it wasn't Bill. Oh, sorry, it wasn't Bob. I have no idea.
Yeah, my understanding is he canceled due to the COVID, the Delta. He didn't want to run the risk. That was my understanding.
All right, I won't look for him then.
Okay. Let's see. Another event that's coming up, Winter Field Day. We don't know what we're going to do, but we're planning on doing something in a local park for Winter Field Day. So put on your calendar January 29th and 30th of next year, 2022. we'll figure out a location and let you know and what's going on. We've done it before, and just bring out the radios and set up and transmit, because it is a bit of a contest. So again, put it on your calendar, January 29th and 30th. And when we have more information coordinated, we'll let you know. So let's see. I think that's any announcements. Does anybody else have any announcements? Anything we're missing? Activities, radio related stuff, contests, questions?
Well,
don't
Phil
see-
mentioned CQP. So go ahead, Phil. You may want to talk about California QSO Party this weekend.
Yes, California QSO Party starts tomorrow at 9 a.m. if I calculated the change from UTC correctly, and lasts for 27 hours, I think. Anybody in California is trying to work the 50 US states plus 8 Canadian territories to make 58 to balance out people from the rest of the US trying to work the 58 California counties as multipliers. And it's fun. Don't know what kind of participation we'll get this year, but get out there, and Los Angeles County isn't rare, but you can put it on the air and give somebody some points.
Well, I know that Devin Day, she mentioned that the Sato Ham Radio Kids and McBride Ham Radio Kids will be participating tomorrow. They're gonna do it broadcast from the McBride radio room. So we know they'll be there.
Very nice.
Okay, so any other announcements? All righty, then our next board meeting is November 1st. Our next general meeting is November 5th. And if there's nothing else, we will adjourn this meeting at 8:26. And we will stay on a little while for anyone who wants to chit